Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Kramer. I'm the Associate University Librarian here at Stanford University, one of your many hosts today, and it's a pleasure to see you all at Fantastic Futures, the second International Conference on Artificial Intelligence in Libraries, Archives, and Museums. Before we begin, just a few logistical notes. The most important thing first, Wi-Fi. There is an open network called Stanford Visitor. Second, badges. Everyone should have a badge. Your badge is your key for not only today, but the next 2 days as well, if you'll be staying with us. Please keep this with you. Many of the buildings are access controlled. And you will find, quite conveniently on the back, not only the schedule for today, but 2 QR codes that link to an interactive PDF and the website, both of which include detailed instructional information or directional information if you happen to find yourself misplaced, which is quite easy. For health and safety, I believe everyone may have already seen the bathrooms, which are in the entrance hall as you came in through the doors. We are in California, so we know it's not a question of if, but rather when we will have the next big earthquake. Hopefully that will not be in the next 3 days, but if it does happen, wait for the shaking to stop and then leave. We will gather at an emergency assembly point by the fountain outside and to the left. And finally, in terms of conduct, there is a health and safety page on the conference website, which you can find various contact information. We do not tolerate harassment in any form. If you have any issues or would like to get support, you may find any of the organizers on that page, also with host on their name badge. And finally, we invite you to think about, as we are beginning to establish this international community of practitioners for libraries, archives, and museums, what is the type of community that we would like to have? So inclusive, diverse, welcoming, supportive, learning, and empowering. I think we'll see examples of all of that today, and we invite you to be part of that and help lead that. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Michael Keller. He's the Vice Provost for the University Libraries and for Teaching and Learning at Stanford, and the main host at Stanford.
Thank you, Tom. Just let me tell you, you are all most welcome here, and this is the first reprise of the marvelous conference we had in Oslo, Norway last year this week. On that occasion, it was beautifully snowy, and there was a Christmas market down a few blocks from the National Library building. It was a wonderful occasion. Here we are in rainy, drizzly Northern California. No Christmas market. Long walk from the nearest township. It's what we are. We are the farm. And on the other hand, we love the rain. We went about 5 or 6 months without a drop. And as you may realize, having read the news, there was a lot of worry about wildfire. So we're grateful for the rain, and we don't mind it, and we hope you will put up with it. This morning, I'd like to read a few excerpts of some of my recent readings about AI, which I hope will put into some kind of context your thoughts and your work over these next days and beyond. We certainly know and believe that AI in and for libraries will be, and is in many cases already quite important, but it will become more so. So I read now from an excerpt from a Forbes magazine article written by Elizabeth Fernandez and published at the end of November. I quote now, "It's easy to anthropomorphize artificial intelligence. We imagine befriending Siri. I don't actually. Or that our self-driving car has our best interests at heart. Don't believe it. When we paint a picture of advanced AI, we might imagine machines that learn, similar to the ways a toddler or even an ancient person such as myself might learn. We imagine them thinking or coming to conclusions similar to how we do those things. Even the term neural networks, an algorithm modeled after the human brain, supposedly, brings up images of a brain-like machine making decisions. However, thinking and artificial intelligence works in the same way as a human brain can be misleading and even dangerous." Another article by a friend of mine, Bill Meehan, who's writing a column for Forbes about the 5 big issues facing humans just now. I start, quoting Bill. Our futures as a species and as citizens in and of various social structures will be shaped by how we address 5 transformative factors. These are climate change, next generation technology, of which of course AI is one, biomedicine, social justice, and US versus China. Social enterprise might be called the quiet revolution. For 40 years, this social movement has identified, recognized, and supported everyday citizens who rise up with a practical idea to improve the lives of their communities. Their approaches are various, and they share many characteristics of successful business entrepreneurs, but seek social impact, not business profit. That's an important consideration for what we're up to. We're not up to trying to make an algorithm or an application or some kind of recipe that's going to make a lot of money. We're up to some work that will benefit our readers who are working on these 5 factors that I've just mentioned, which Bill, by the way, calls the 5 fates, for the future and a benefit of our own species and of the world. And now another article with 5 little bits of advice for those of us. This also showed up recently in a blog post by a man named Sujai Halea. What are the 5 issues with artificial intelligence? And this is also written from a business perspective, so we have to interpret these pieces of advice. The first problem is what he calls AI washing. And I quote now, "This is an annoying phenomenon where a company positions an offering as involving AI, when in fact that's a stretch. In many cases, many AI washing cases, a company is really using more basic forms of data analysis to make something more intelligent. This is not true AI, which can learn and take action in response to the data someone sends it, and over time become smarter and more autonomous as the amount of data increases." The second issue, the shiny object syndrome. How many of you have experienced the shiny object syndrome in our very own work? Almost everybody. I quote, "This is different from AI washing in that an organization may be enthusiastically developing genuine AI capabilities, but it has put the cart before the horse by failing to delineate what important business issues or customer pain points it's looking to AI to solve." The third one, Tom, you'll love this one. Architectural snag. I quote, "Even after organizations have successfully homed in on appropriate AI applications, some are surprised to discover that their architecture, their technical architecture, isn't well suited to AI." The third one, the famous one, organizational boundaries. Silos are excellent for storing corn, but they're a curse for an enterprise AI strategy that inherently depends upon data integration and collaboration among teams to ensure end-to-end solutions. Fifth and last, insufficient skills investment. I quote again, "AI requires a heavy investment in the teams of data scientists and information technologists who work hand in hand with the business domain experts to drive the objectives that an organization expects to gain from AI." These comments, I think, are quite instructive to us in this construct that we're working on right now. And as we work on these matters, various of us with various roles and responsibilities, I urge us all to keep this in mind. AI for libraries is absolutely headed to being a very beneficial application or set of applications. And that's why we're all here. But we have to think of it in a context that recognizes that AI, despite all the promise and all the hype, is machinery. It's machinery that we have to figure out how to control and turn into beneficial results over time. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce my friend Aslak Myhre, who's sitting to my right. A brief introduction. First of all, it's important for you to realize that Aslak is an author, is a poet, and is, most importantly for our purposes right now, the National Librarian of Norway and director, therefore, of the National Library of Norway. He has been a politician. He has survived being a politician. He has not been impeached. On the other hand, his political leanings did not result, as I understand it, in an actual elected position. Am I correct in that?
I never became president.
That's right. He is also a person who lives next to a forest, which I find absolutely wonderful, outside of Oslo. And he's been in charge of this National Library of Norway, and with his colleagues, many of whom are here. How many of you are here from Norway? Please stand up. All the Norwegians, stand up so we can see you very clearly. There should be about a dozen of you. This is commitment, okay? Thank you for coming. So Aslak, come join me here. We're going to make an announcement. Aslak and I have been working on this with our wonderful colleagues in both organizations for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And we are happy to tell you that we are now engaging a third partner to be colleagues in the development of this movement, this professional movement. I'll let Aslak tell you right now who that partner is.
Well, as you know, we have an American counterpart, and we have a Northern European or Scandinavian counterpart, and now we also have a Southern European or Continental European counterpart, because the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, the French National Library, has agreed to join us. Yes, give them an applause.
So, Aslak, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much, Mike. And first of all, I must thank Mike, Tom, Nicole, and his team, and their team for the warm welcoming to California and to Stanford, for sharing our efforts for the past years in this, but also for hosting this conference and having us all here. For a Norwegian to travel all the way from the Polar Circle and to Stanford, California, to talk about AI is a bit dangerous and eavesdropping. You feel small in this place. To talk about technology in the places where the tools we use in our daily lives, and mind you, the tools we never could imagine having 10 or 20 years ago, were developed, in the environment where the ideas were born, is something that creates a feeling of awe, of honor and respect. But also to be standing here and looking out of a crowd of librarians, of archivists, of museum conservators, of people from the knowledge sector, also creates for me a feeling of honor, of awe and respect. For when we talk about AI and we talk about technology, we are, of course, the juniors. If we gather all our developers, all our technological force, put them all together in a room, the room doesn't need to be so big. If we compare ourselves to Google, to Facebook, to Amazon, to the big companies working on this, we are small. We don't have the manpower or woman power or human power to be at the front. But at the same time, looking at us, we have something different that actually puts us in front. What do we have? We have our collections. And if we put all our collections together, we have the collected memory of humankind, of 6,000, 8,000, or millions of years on this planet. That's what our collections are. For each and one of our collections is a small part of cultural heritage, and all together, it's all of the cultural heritage. And we have another thing. We have community. We meet in places like this all the time to share, not to compete. There's no competition amongst libraries, archives, or museums. There's only sharing, a feeling of collectiveness. This is who we are. And in this, even though we are juniors, we might be actually the sharp edge, the pinpoint in the front of development. When we talk about technology as AI, we end up talking about the future. And the title for this conference is exactly that, the fantastic futures. The futures that's so bright we got to wear shades and so on. And we love this, at least we librarians. We love to meet and talk all over the world, in each of our countries, and talk about what is a library, or even more popular, what is the future library. And we are under hard pressure to always think anew, to always be creative, to always create the idea for the future. But I think looking at what I said, what we are, what we have together, I think in the meeting with AI, machine learning and new technology, the first thing we need to do is to think old, not new. We need dare to think old. Not ask ourselves what we will be in the future, but what we are. What is an actual library? What are we? We tend to think that we are our technology. We tend to think that we are the catalog, that the library is a catalog, the library is the metadata, the library is the collection on the shelves or now in the digital. But this is not true. And if you talk to the public libraries, they tend to think that they're institutions that lend out books and material to people, and that's the core of the library. This is not true. Lending out books is extremely new in libraries. Lending out books is public libraries late 19th, early 20th century. Libraries are old, extremely old. And what are we then? Well, we are knowledge institutions, we know that. We try to gather, as I said, the knowledge of humankind. All knowledge, all culture in one place. And we've been so since Alexandria and even before that. But there's been one major revolution in the thinking of libraries. And it's an old thought. And the thought was that we do not just keep our heritage. We do not just keep the knowledge. We want people to use it. We are not gatekeepers of knowledge. We used to be gatekeepers. Gatekeepers for kings, gatekeepers for universities, gatekeepers for the Pope or priests or whoever. We are now gate openers. Every librarian all over the world will be in need of opening his or her gate to give people access, wanting people to use the collections. We are agents for the knowledge in our collections. Agents for education, agents for culture, missionaries. We are people's enlighteners. We are the children of enlightenment. That is who we are. And that was a major change. If we think that the library is the catalog, and a librarian is a person who knows the catalog, who is able to find the book on its shelf or place it correctly in the Dewey Decimal System, librarians will be as rare as typographists and other trades that has gone out of use in the future. We will not need thousands of people working the Dewey system, I'm sorry. We will not need thousands of people working the catalog. We will not need help to find the books in shelves. All that can be automatized. But if librarians are hoarders of human knowledge, and agents and missionaries and gate openers for this knowledge, if librarians are enlighteners and educators, there will be more of us than any time. And there will be more need for us than there has been in any time in history. This is where we should start thinking anew. As Mike said, looking at AI and machine learning not as magic, not as something strange to us, something we need to become, but as a tool. And as a tool that we cannot choose not to use this tool. We cannot choose not to go into this. 15 years ago, the National Library of Norway decided to digitize our entire collection. We did this from a very, very, very simple statement. We said in the future people will expect to find knowledge online. If our knowledge base shall be relevant in the future, it needs to be online. And thus, we need to digitize it. It's as simple as that. We could draw a parallel to AI or machine learning today. In the future, and the very near future, as in tomorrow, people will expect to have AI tools to help navigate their lives. They already have, knowingly and unknowingly. If our collections and our knowledge shall be relevant, interesting, and accessible in the future, we need to use these tools. It's as simple as that. But then there is more, because then comes the question, what are we using these tools for? How will we use them? And there's a boring and an exciting version, and we need to do both. The boring version is to make the machines do what humans do today. And we've been doing that since we started industrial production. We need to make the machine see GUI, to catalog, to give analysis, give us keywords, stuff like that. Things we do today. But it's boring. It's really boring. We already have catalogs and keywords and GUI. There's nothing new in that. What else can we do? And that's the exciting part. What can we do with the AI and the machine learning and other tools that humans can't do today? And here comes, for me, the crucial point. We have all together all the knowledge of mankind, or humankind, in our collections. This means that we all together have created a wall of information that is so massive that nobody actually can navigate it. Just in the Norwegian National Library, we have now digitized about 2.5 million newspaper editions. It's magic, except who can read 2.5 million newspaper editions? Nobody can that. Reading just takes as long time as it always did. But they're digitized, so you can search them and find what you're looking for. But what about analyzing them? What about reading them all? Who can read them all? The machine can read them all. Can we teach the machine to read them and actually give us answers? If so, we will have answers no human could ever even fathom of making. Because the capacity of analyzing our collections altogether will be enormous. And that will give us, both as researchers and as users, experiences and knowledge we couldn't find in any other way. And that's the exciting part. We will never be as many as Google, or as many as Microsoft, or as many as any other industry. But we still need to invest 100% in this development. Because we have, as I said, one thing that differs us from the others. We have the collections and the history of mankind, of humankind, but we have something more also. We have an aim and a mission. When we use this technology on the collective cultural heritage of humans, we aim to improve the lives of humans. Our aim is only one thing: to educate, to create knowledge, to give democracy, but all in all to improve the human condition, to make lives better. We are agents and missionaries for our collections, not because we love the collections, but because we think the collections are important to humankind. And thus, we will hopefully address AI and machine learning in a different way than any other institutions could. As knowledge institutions, we could actually make a great difference addressing this technology. And that's what we are doing now, having the Fantastic Futures Conference. And that's why it's important, because what comes out of our work collectively will actually, maybe, hopefully, change the lives of people all over the world. Thank you very much.